Hi, everyone. It's welcome to Clackamas United Church of Christ. It's Pastor Adam, and I wanted to come on here today to talk with you about my banner back here. It's one of my favorite things. It's a gift from my friend Erica. And hi, Erica, if you're watching. Thank you for the banner. It says coexist, and it's got all these different religious symbols on it. And my dog is coming over right now to say hello. So this is the dog Mac. Everybody, hi Mac. That was not planned. Mac, sit, sit. Good boy, good sit. So there is my dog Mac, and so I wanted to talk about my banner because I had it a couple weeks ago for our worship service, and I took a picture of it and I posted it up on our Facebook page, and everybody liked it except for a couple of people who thought it was total heresy. And so then they shared it to their Christian group and they were like, look at these guys, they're a bunch of heretics. And I was like, oh, God bless you. It's so fantastic. It's awesome because it gives me an opportunity to talk about why I love this banner and why I think why Christianity can coexist with all of these other religions. So the argument against me and my position is that Christianity is an exclusive religion. That means that Christianity makes truth claims about itself, and that means that other religions that make similar truth claims must be wrong because there can only be one truth, and voila, we happen to hold it. And isn't that awesome? So they'll often go to places like where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This is a classic proof texting of this position. Now, there's a few things that I want to say about this position. First, Jesus says that he is the way, the truth, and the life. That means that I am not. That means that you are not. It means that Jesus is. And so we need to be quite humble in the way that we use these kinds of words from Jesus. Because Jesus, notice, doesn't say Christianity is the way, the truth, and the life, or your understanding of Christianity is the way, the truth, and the life. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Now, that can still sound quite exclusive, can't it? But what about this? What if Jesus shows up for Christians? What if Jesus shows up in places that are outside of Christianity? What if Jesus is so much bigger than Christianity? What if the way, the truth, and the life shows up in other religions too? What if the Christ is so much bigger than we had ever thought the Christ was? This, I think, is where Jesus is leading us. Why? Because a few chapters earlier, Jesus says to his disciples, listen, guys, I have sheep that are not of this fold. Oh, really? Jesus has followers, people that you may not consider to be followers of Jesus. Jesus has sheep that are not in the fold of Christianity or in the fold of Judaism or in the fold of Islam. Jesus has sheep that are everywhere. And you know what I say about that? Thank God. Thank God. And they may not call it Jesus. And I say, that's fine. I just thank God that you're following this thing. In the beginning of the Gospel of John, it says, the Word was in the beginning and in the world, and it was everywhere. And then the Word became flesh in Jesus. The Word, the Logos of God, the reason for God, has been here all along. It's been in every culture, in every religion. And it just so happens that for us Christians, it became flesh in the person Jesus. But Could it be that it was within Judaism? Could it be that the Logos was there in the burning bush? Yes. Could it be that the Logos was speaking through the prophets? Absolutely. Could it be that the Logos appears in a book called the Quran? Yeah, I think so. Could it be that the Logos appears in Hinduism and in Buddhism? Yes. And I say thank God for this. Now, if you want more on this, take a look at the book of Genesis, because there's this man named Abraham, and he travels throughout the lands, throughout the world, well, the known world at the time, with his wife, Sarah. And they come to a country called Gerar, which is a funny name. Sounds like my dog, Gerar. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. But Abraham is afraid because when it comes to Gerar, he knows that his wife is a fairly attractive woman. And this story is really weird. And let's just let it be weird, okay? So Abraham is like, my wife is really attractive. And I'm afraid that when I come into Gerar, that the men will try to kill me and take my wife. So he says to Sarah, hey, how about you pretend to be my sister? And then it'll all go fine with us. This sounds like a horrible idea to me, but that's what Abraham comes up with. And so then the king, Abimelech, sees Sarah and he invites her into his house. But God comes to Abimelech in a dream and says, don't touch that woman because she's married. And so Abimelech recognizes God in his dream. And what does God do? God seeks to protect Abimelech. So God keeps Abimelech from doing anything with Abraham's wife. And this is such a weird story. But here's the point that I want to make with it. God appears to people outside of our religion, outside of our group, outside of the family of Abraham, even to a king named Abimelech. That's Genesis 20. Move on to Genesis 26. Abraham's son Isaac meets King Abimelech a little later, and Abimelech sees that God is with Isaac and Isaac's family. So Abimelech is once again able to see God's presence in the world. And Abimelech is not somebody who is a member of our faith tradition. Abimelech is outside of it, and yet he's able to recognize God's presence when he sees it. So Abimelech makes a treaty with Isaac that they will protect one another and not harm one another. So Abraham and God comes to Abimelech and protects him once again. In Genesis 31, this is all over the place in Genesis. Go check it out. Laban has many household gods that he worships. So Laban is not doing the right thing according to our spirituality and our religion, right? But God comes to Laban and doesn't say, hey, man, you got to stop worshiping other gods. Instead, God comes to Laban with words of protection because Laban is about to be, something bad is about to happen to Laban. And God warns him in a dream. So God comes to people outside of our religion, even people that we think are doing religion wrong. God comes to them too, and they can listen to God. Genesis 39, a leader of Egypt named Potiphar recognizes God's presence. I mean, these are people who are totally outside of what we traditionally call the family of God or our religions. Potiphar, an Egyptian, recognizes God's presence is among him. And even Genesis 41, the Pharaoh of Egypt recognizes that God is with Joseph and has made Joseph the wisest person to live. So even the Pharaoh of Egypt that is worshiping Ra and other gods is able to recognize God in his midst. So this is all opening us up to see God is there present in other religions. One more example. I don't know if I'm boring you with these. I find this really fascinating. In Exodus chapter 18, there's a man named Jethro. Jethro is Moses's father-in-law. And Jethro is a Midian priest, a priest from a different culture in a different religion. And Jethro is able to recognize the presence of God in Moses. But not only does he recognize the presence of God in Moses, Jethro comes to Moses. Moses has this problem because he's acting as a judge for all of the people of Israel. And Jethro comes to him and says, dude, you're going to wear yourself out with this. And so Jethro says, why don't you appoint judges to take on the smaller cases and you just do the big giant cases. So here's someone who is a priest from a different religion, a different culture, who is coming to Moses with words of wisdom. And Moses recognizes that this wisdom is outside of his religion, comes from outside of his religion. And Moses says, yes, give me some of that. I mean, how great of an example of that for us, right? Yeah, I'm a Christian, but I can recognize that in Islam, in this hand, I'm not sure what that is, I'm sorry, I'll find out. In Judaism, in Taoism, in Hinduism, whoa, there's some great wisdom there. Just like Moses noticed there was great wisdom from somewhere outside of his religious tradition, we can recognize that too. So that's Genesis and Exodus, great stories there. Let's go back to Jesus for a second, and then we'll conclude. Because there's this great chapter in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 9. And there are two things happening here that I think are really important for this conversation too. So Jesus and his disciples are hanging out, and they're doing this weird thing, exorcising demons, whatever that means to you. I'll let that mean whatever it is to you. Maybe we'll talk about it another time. But the important thing is here is the relationship that the disciples have with people outside of their group. Okay? So some of the disciples come to Jesus and say to Jesus, hey, we saw this guy exorcising demons in your name, Jesus, but he's not one of us. He's not following with us. And we got to make him stop. And Jesus basically says, hey, if he's exorcising demons, let's thank God for that. It doesn't matter if he is with us or not with us. What matters is that he is doing good things in the world in the name of Jesus, in the name of God. I don't care, just as long as he's doing good stuff in the world. That's what matters to Jesus here. Now, the final thing that I want to say, and then I'm going to get to my dog Mac, he's hungry. The final thing that I want to say about chapter 9 of Mark is that there's this argument that the disciples have about who the greatest is among them. And this argument among the disciples about who's superior can often be what religions fall into, especially when we start saying they're exclusive religions and ours holds the truth and so yours can't hold the truth. This is like the disciples arguing with one another about who's the greatest. And Jesus isn't having any of it. He doesn't care about our rivalries, about who is the greatest or which one of us thinks that we hold the truth, because really none of us do, because Jesus is the truth. And Jesus shows up wherever Jesus is going to show up. So Jesus comes to them and says, stop arguing about who's the greatest among you and get to the work of living into the kingdom of God, which is loving your neighbors as yourselves and your pet dog as yourself too. And so I'm going to go do that. Thank you for joining me. I would love to hear what you think. I see that there are comments and I'll type out responses later. Wow, now I'm seeing your comments. Love you guys. I'm going to go feed my dog and then I'll come back later today. Dr. Fauci, still my man. So you can get the t-shirt at Clackamas United Church of Christ website on the merch store. Mac, I'm going to go feed you. Bye, everyone. Okay. I know. Hi, everyone. This is Adam Erickson, reminding you that no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome at Clackamas United Church of Christ. We are located at 15303 Southeast Webster Road in Milwaukee, Oregon. We are so glad that you found this podcast. All of our podcasts will always be free, but we rely on the financial support of our members and our friends. If this podcast meant something to you, you can help us out in two ways. You can share this podcast with someone you think might be interested. You can also help us financially by donating to the wonderful missions we have here at Clackamas United Church of Christ. To do so, you can go to our Facebook page, our website, or our YouTube channel, and click on the Donate Here button. Our worship services start at 10:30 on Sundays, except for during the summer months when we start at 10 o'clock. If you would like more information on our church, you can visit our website at c-ucc.org. You can also reach out to me through email at adam@c-ucc.org. Until next time, grace and peace be with you.